Awesome, thank you guys. Number two, I wanted to make an announcement on also our sign language interpreters. They are also here. And then finally, for press, thank you guys for covering today's very important conversation. At the conclusion of this event, the mayor will engage with press, but we ask if you guys can just crowd there to the left. Finally, at the conclusion of this event, for constituents who want to engage with the mayor, we're going to ask if you guys can line up to the right. Otherwise, without further ado, Councilwoman Ford.
I'm so glad the AC is working so well. I see you're doing a great job with the AC in this room. Thank you all for hosting us, to the SAIC team. I'm so grateful that all of you all came. I want to welcome the mayor and the mayor's team to District 1. Edison High School is a proud anchor in District 1. For many of you that have been coming to our back-to-school batch that Representative Bernal started, it's going to be August 8th. We have a lot of organizations coming, so I invite you all to join us as we give out amazing backpacks and supplies to our residents that really need it. August 8th here at 10 a.m. and hope all of you all join us then. I want to again welcome you to District 1. Many of you have seen me, we've engaged, we know what we've been working on. And I want to thank city staff that has been working so hard through this last month to really work on our budget, which I'm sure will come up in the conversations today. But we do have a tough budget that we're going into, and so August is going to be a really big communication for all of the council on what our priorities are. And what I hope you hear from the District 1 team is we have learned a lot from you all over the last 3 years. My team member Sarah is here with us tonight, and we have learned a lot. She's great, yes. And we have learned a lot about what the District 1 priorities are, and we've been focusing. The most important budget priority that came out in our survey this year was affordable housing, and making sure that our unhoused population has support as well. So we're going to continue making sure that that is voiced very clearly, and also knowing that our most vulnerable populations should not be bearing the burden of all of the impacts that we're facing as a city. You all have heard me say that. This is one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure we did our very due diligence on the SAWS rate increase, to ensure that every single penny that we are asking you all to help support us is thought about thoughtfully. And we want to make sure that everything that we're doing has major impact, that whether we're focusing on literacy, thank you to the book council for being here, whether we're focused on workforce development, those dollars are being spent to ensure that opportunity is occurring in our city, and that we are every day addressing the most challenging problems of poverty, of multi-generational poverty that we know that we see, while ensuring that everyone has a sidewalk. Because y'all have heard me say, the thing that keeps me up at night is how do we find enough money for all of our sidewalks and crosswalks? We have some folks here with Beacon Hill. We just put up our first quick build traffic calming application, and Art's in the back who helped make that happen in King William at Cedar and Parade. I don't know if any of my King William friends are here, but we need to make sure we continue doing all that while also thinking about the long term and ensuring that those that come behind us have the same opportunity that we do sitting here. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to the mayor and her team, and we look forward to seeing you on last plug. Our budget town hall is going to be on Tuesday, August 27th at Central Library. If you will join us there, we would love to see you and tell you all about what's in our budget as we go through it. Thank you all so much, and have a great evening.
Councilman, one of your constituents just asked, what time is your budget town hall? Okay. 6:30. Well, thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you all for making time to be here. I know it's a busy summer, and frankly, you could just be anywhere else, but I'm very thankful that you took the time to join us today and talk about kind of whatever is top of mind for you. I think as you've read in the news, top of mind for me continues to be the budget, as the councilman just alluded to. It's going to be quite difficult. So let me clarify who is here from the city. So we've got Art from Public Works, we've got Ayman from Development Services, John Paterick as well with Public Works. We've also got Animal Control Services, which you may be surprised, I get the second most emails about that topic in particular. We also have Robert Puente here is from SAWS. We have anybody from CPS? We have folks here also from CPS. If you haven't taken time to go engage with those folks, you might qualify for some programs that can can be helpful with paying the bill or lowering the bill. So I'm really thankful that both of them are here to be able to provide that. But please, those tables are here, and I'm really thankful that both of those utilities have taken the time to be here. So how I like to do these, and I'll be honest with you, during, on the campaign over a year ago now-ish, I said I would do these every month in person, and I'm proud that my team and I have kept that, and I get a lot out of these. So I will talk for about 20 minutes, and then I will turn it over to you, whatever you want to ask about. And I don't filter the questions, so if you raise your hand, I'm very likely going to call on you. This is how I last time got a question about Al-Qaeda. So, whatever you want to talk about, right? And if I don't know the answer, I'll let you know. If I don't know the answer, we'll work to get that, but I'm also thankful that we've got city staff here that might be able to provide some answers there. Okay, so let's get into it. All right, so City Hall update. Big topic right now, obviously, is the budget. As you are hearing. Hear me? Okay. As you are hearing, we've got a $158 million budget gap. $158 million. For context, right? If you closed every library, if you closed all of animal control services, if you took all of the money in the general fund out regarding public health, you'd still have to go find another $20 million. So when we talk about, making sure that we are being thoughtful about how we close this, it is a big gap. When folks are like, well, what about just increasing the cost of permits and whatnot? To what? $10,000 to do a garage sale? Like, no. We have to be thinking a little bit differently, or a lot differently, than how we've done things, which is why you heard me put some ideas on the table that might previously we haven't thought of, but I think when we're talking about raising people's property taxes for the first time in 30 years, we owe it to you all to go through the intellectual exercise to say, hey, what about? Right? What about? Because I'm not raising people's property taxes if we haven't cut all the fat out of the budget. Yes. And there have been, I think, we can go through some of those efforts that I've talked about and you've read about that go to that, whether we look at frankly, closing down a program sooner than anticipated, the Ready to Work program, which is a workforce development program that was approved during COVID times to really help folks kind of upskill, right, and make sure they're as gainfully employed as they could be. And I think that's a program that speaks to the generosity of our community, and I think that also speaks to what people thought they were going to get. I think if anybody looks at the numbers there, that program has not necessarily produced what we thought it would. I'm thankful that we've seen some improvement as of late, but when we're looking at about $100 million that's still left in that program, and there are ways in which you could use some of that money if the voters decided to, use some of that money to cover down on things in the general fund, thereby then freeing up some money in the general fund for core services like public safety and drainage. I think we do that. Because when I talk about the property tax increase, I'm thinking not only about the budget, but the other thing that we are looking at, you've heard us talk about potentially raising the property tax to do, is increase our bond capacity. Increase our bond capacity. That thing that we do kind of every 5 years, streets and sidewalks, drainage, facilities, parks, right? Based on where the property tax values are now, that is also lower than we were thinking it could be. So I just wanted to, when we're talking about the budget, it's the bond, but you know what? I also go to HEB. And so we're also watching what's happening at the federal level, right, as they continue to implement the one big beautiful bill, cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, CHIP, and SNAP. So we're trying to, I think, as a council, really be thoughtful about raising property taxes. That's not kind of a on all or nothing, right? We've got to look at what have we taken out of that doesn't need to be funded by city taxpayers. I'm not saying these aren't great things to have, right? And our city is very generous in these things, but I'm just saying, is it worth raising people's property taxes? And I think that's a fair question to ask. welcome your feedback on that, of course. So, as the councilwoman mentioned, we'll go through, we'll see the draft budget that the city has prepared. We'll get our first look at that on the 13th. But we know it's not going to be pretty. We know it's not going to be pretty. I just had another update with the city manager a couple of hours ago to get a sense of where that is. And this is going to be, some of the cuts are going to be even more severe than what we were presented with last time. So this is about managing expectations. Managing expectations. I think it's also understanding, as we all know, bad news doesn't get better with time, does it? Right? And so when we're looking at some of these cuts, it is fair, I think, to look at some of the organizations that have done great work in our community, right? Some of these nonprofits, whether you're talking about Botanical Garden, whether you're talking about the book festival, et cetera, great things, all things we want in our community. I think it's fair, though, to look at, hey, corporate, philanthropy, foundations, can you help us out?
All of that.
Can you help us out?
Yes.
Right, and I think that's fair to ask. Because when you look at that money, just those things, that's 6.5 mil right there. Just on the things, you may have seen that letter that I sent out. It's an open letter. And none of the recipients of that letter are not going to surprise you, right? CEO Whataburger, CEO Valero, CEO USAA, right? Et cetera, Area Foundation CEO, leadership at the Wells Foundation. None of that would surprise you, because they've got access to resources. CEO of Spurs, of course, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so, but that's an open letter. That was an open letter, just to be very clear, i.e. the way I was raised, you don't have to wait to be asked to do the right thing. If you can do the right thing, if you can help, you just do that. So, you know, if you've got some billionaire friends that would like to help pay some of those things, or contribute to some of those things, then we do that. And I say all that because I think those services are so important. That's why I asked, hey, philanthropy, corporations, foundations, can you commit to a 3-year funding commitment? 3 years, right? So that allows for some stability in their planning. What we've also done, though, is been very clear that there is funding from the city is uncertain at this point. If we're having a hard time meeting our core services, then we need to really look at how those other things might be covered down. So I've asked those folks to, if they'd like to help, provide that to my chief of staff by the 21st of August. And so then, as we get closer to the budget, then we can say, hey, you know what, this comes off the books because they were funded by X. This comes off the books because it was funded. Hey, no one actually chimed in for this one, we might need to still look at this. But then again, we all look at, if we still want to do this, at what expense, and is it worth raising people's property taxes? But I'm going to be honest with you, I have yet to meet the person that says, yes, please raise my property tax so you can give the Botanical Gardens $1 million. I have not met that person. Okay? Just to be frank. So on the bond also, as I mentioned, you know, the bond, this is really important for our community. This is how we get after those projects, drainage, infrastructure projects, parks, etc. In the 2022 bond, we had a $1.2 billion capacity. This year, we were expecting, ideally, something similar, but based on where property values are, we were initially at 600. We will now be south of that, south of 600. Okay, so that gives you an idea of how we really have to be scrubbing this list of projects, being judicious, because we know there are some things, and we're waiting on the updated number from the city manager, but we know there is the first bond project for the downtown arena stuff. The initial estimate that we got was 220 to 250. We have not had an updated estimate on that, right? It may be less than that, but we haven't had an updated estimate, so I'd still reference that number. So if we're south of 600, and 220 to 250 is what's needed for downtown, you see there's not a lot of other things left, right? For parks, for streets and drainage, et cetera, et cetera. So when I say we're looking at making sure we're being thoughtful about how we potentially raise the bond capacity or keep it at what it is, and then what do we fund, right? Those are the things that are ongoing. CPS and SAWS, as ago about the request for a rate increase from SAWS. So let me, just for some backstory, so the mayor sits on the board of both utilities. These are our strategic advantages, the fact that we own these utilities. The story of these utilities, though, is very different, okay? SAWS, some of the pipes are over 100 years old. We have deferred maintenance on these things, right? And when I think about SAWS and delaying the repairs that are needed on this, that's a public safety issue, that's a public health issue. And you know in your own house, the longer you kick the can down the road, those leaks, they don't fix themselves, right? So we have to invest in that infrastructure to make sure that our water system is providing the service at the quality that is necessary. For context also, I didn't realize this until I got on the seat, but we have the third highest number of miles of water pipe in the entire country. Number one is New York, right? They're about 6 times larger than we are. Number 2 is LA. They're about 3.5 times larger than we are. And then there's us. And you know our story is more sprawled, right? And so when we're thinking about our planning moving forward, density is not only good for walkability and closeness to other services, density is also something really important for us to consider in the context of what it means for our utility, okay? Because those pipes, I mean, the maintenance on these is very expensive. On top of, interestingly enough, based on the extreme weather that we've had to include these droughts, those pipes that we thought were going to last for 30 some odd years, they're not lasting as long, okay, because of the extreme weather. So all these things, whether it be density or the impacts of extreme weather events, we got to think about all of that as we plan for our city. CPS is, they are also potentially going to come to us for a rate increase. This will know in a little bit more time based on how the summer goes, and I'm more optimistic about their ability to close their gap. The other thing that we are preparing for, as you know, the state legislative folks will meet next year. I'm thankful Councilman McKee Rodriguez, which is out of District 2, has agreed to lead our Intergovernmental Affairs Committee as we look at everything that is important for our city. Let me give you an example of one of the things that we're going to make sure that we elevate as an issue, because we just lived through the consequences of that deficiency. So as you all know, we just approved this incentive package for Toyota, which will bring billions of investment into our community and a couple thousand more jobs, and that's a good thing. What we learned in that process, though, is that based on the state chapter, you can give somebody, when the city gives somebody an incentive, the company then can give you, I'll just for shorthand call a community benefit agreement of about 10%, right? And so what Toyota is looking at is doing about 10% of that into childcare. However, what the state policy doesn't allow us to do is count our contribution. If you have a city-owned utility, remember I told you we own SAWS and CPS, so both of those also provided an incentive for them, right? However, we were not able to count that toward the 10% that came back to us. So that's one of the things I've asked Councilman McKee Rodriguez to think about how we elevate that issue, because as a result of that, we left about $8 million on the table. Okay? Of course, we're watching very closely. I mean, you've seen the governor's position, for example, on data centers has changed. I think we're having some conversations about what that could mean here locally, what we have to wait for, what we don't want to have to wait for, and how we can lean forward to help ourselves. The picture in the upper right hand, and it might be a little bit hard to see. Economic development. So that is a picture. We recently hosted a follow-on visit from a Taiwanese company that is looking to set up here in San Antonio. We're very excited about that. Last summer, I hosted them. It's called TEMA, the Taiwanese Electric and Electronic Manufacturing Association. They were actually, a friend of mine was organizing that and reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to host these folks? And it's a delegation that was coming through the state as they're looking to set up in Texas. And I said, absolutely, we want to host these folks. Because if you look at TEMA, which is that group, it's a trade organization,
but their members collectively represent about like 2/3 of Taiwan's GDP. And that's because these are like semiconductors, the microelectronic companies, et cetera, et cetera. So we hosted them last August at Best Quality Daughter, which was a nice touch because Jen's mom is from Taiwan originally. But we had a good visit. Earlier this year, I led a delegation to Taiwan. We had another follow-on conversation there. And so they came back here as we are now looking at, next steps for them. So just within 1 year from the initial touch point to now, been very excited about the development. And then about the development and folks understanding what is possible here in San Antonio. I was very thankful to highlight the AI computing college at UT San Antonio. We now have the state's 3rd largest research institute. Highlight, of course, the great work happening at Port San Antonio. It's a little bit of a kind of a secret gem that we've got there, but once folks are able to see that for themselves, and of course, experience for themselves the city's hospitality and a local government, frankly, that wants to work and partner with them, then we fare quite well. So we look forward to some sharing some good news there here shortly. I'm going to have address a couple of things as well, and then I'm going to turn it over to you and your questions. If you're watching the news, you see there's a lot of focus on voting rights. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important in the 6th largest city in the country, the city where more people live than 11 states, that we really help ensure that we're doing everything possible to ensure that our neighbors are heard in the most important way, which is at the ballot box. Okay, so I'm thankful, and I see one of the voting commission members, several actually, that are here. Yeah, thank y'all. The voting commission, I charged them about 2 months ago now at this point. Hey, what are your recommendations? We want to increase voter access. We want to increase voter engagement at the local level. Give me your recommendations. Those recommendations are in a report. It is online, sanantonio.gov/mayor. Check out the report. You can provide comments on those things. But I'm thankful that they took the time to do that. As we are celebrating our country's 250th birthday, it's interesting to kind of look around the room and see that some of us were not necessarily thought of when the country was started. But that charge of a more perfect union falls on all of us. And I think that starts with ensuring that we are ensuring people can vote. So I'm happy to take your questions. Yes, please.
My name's Robert Silvas. I've spoken to the mayor before on this issue, and it seems like I can't get a response. It's environmental and has to do with the water, and it basically revolves around the military and San Antonio. I worked there. I served there as a National Guard, and I'm asking you people because I've asked this people when they don't want to answer me, but maybe you guys know someone that can help me bring the story that we've been poisoned over the years through the water and the air. And let's talk about 1963 when the bomb went off in Medina.
Exactly. I remember that one.
It's kind of fishy. But they blew up a bomb that was on 13 November. 50,900 kilograms of high explosives and multiple cases in that, bomb. Anyways, I'll leave you anybody wants to talk, and I'll leave you my number, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would like to ask, I think in the face of all this, there are certain values that we cannot neglect and report with the city and the villages and the and the complete disregard for pedestrians and for public safety as far as people even being able to be safe in their neighborhood needs to be corrected. Personally, I have 2 points to raise. I have personally seen SAPD officers blow through crosswalks with pedestrians in them numerous times. Myself was stopped on Kool-Aid Road at the Z crossing with a pedestrian on my car. I had 2 SAPD cars drive on either side of me. The pedestrian had to hop on the hood of my car to prevent being hit. Last week, I was crossing from the Adult and Senior Center
at Lions Field across to the Z and another Z crossing. And these Z crossings are only placed where there has already been a high rate of pedestrian deaths. 2 police officers blew past a car that had stopped for me to cross. I'm crossing the street in the crosswalk. This car stopped and they blew past them, which is an equal violation of the law. I feel like as our law enforcement does not respect pedestrians, that this is a basis of a society that just cannot, that has to change its values. It has to start with those who enforce that. And also just the infrastructure. I'm very agreed that a lot of the pedestrian signals, when they do work, they only activate if there's also a car there. In other words, it's not that that the signal does not work, but that the priority of the city has placed is only for it to activate when there's a car also there. And there are in District 1, for instance, at McCullough and Augusta near Guillermo's downtown. And also, I have seen people numerous times at the Art Deco H-E-B risk their lives because they have to wait more than 2 minutes to cross to the Primo station. Sometimes it may be the very last bus that's going to take them home. They have all their groceries, and they're waiting. The line never changes because the pedestrian crosswalk does not come on unless there's a car waiting the other direction, and all the traffic's on Fredericksburg Road. So they inevitably rush through and risk their lives crossing Fredericksburg Road. And this happens at these places all over town. I think if we need to be able to walk safely, that is such a basic in our society, even if you don't go out and walk. For people to be safe on foot or in a wheelchair in their own space in this city is so essential. It needs to be the number one priority.
Thank you for raising that. Do you have anybody here from SAPD or if you want to talk public works about? Go ahead. Yeah, come on up. All right, thank you.
Dr. Coors, Patricia has a question.
Great points. I agree with you. Pedestrian safety needs to be a focus, and it has been. About 10 years ago, the city adopted Vision Zero, which is an international movement to get to zero fatalities. And so over the years, the city has been funding more improvements. Some of the improvements I would like to talk to you more specifically afterwards, just to understand the specifics, because most of our pedestrian improvements, some of those crossings are push button activated by design, because we don't necessarily want them blinking all the time. Because you lose the attention span. So that's why they're designed to only really light up if someone is there waiting for them.
That has to be the pedestrian, not the motor.
They're the pedestrian crossings you're speaking of. There's a push button to activate them.
Right, we work together. Right, we work together. Yes.
Okay. Well, let me get your input because I know there's a lot of other questions, and then we can talk more specifics about some of those other issues. Yeah. Sorry, I'm Art Reinhardt. I serve as the Director of Public Works.
Okay. I just wanted to make a comment. I know it can be hard budget decisions, but I just hope that y'all are kind to animal care services and really protect us for what they're doing out there because it helps keep us safe.
Sorry, I think you have a different mic. Is it a?
I don't know if it's what you gave.
Go ahead and give her that mic.
Okay, and I just want to make sure that you consider animal care services because not only are they the most voiceless in our community, but also by taking care of stray and aggressive dogs, they're keeping all of us safe. And I think that's a terrible issue in this city, and we need to support them the best way we can and come up with the best ideas we can. And I feel that I really want to see them protected for a city our size. Because, child abuse and animal abuse numbers parallel themselves.
Thank you. Councilwoman McCoy, you're more than welcome to join if you want to answer any of these questions that are specific to your district. Great, thanks. The gentleman, the service member.
Like affordable and safe home for people.
Hold on 1 second. Thank you for the signs. Thank you. We want to make sure everybody can hear this and see the speaker. Thank you.
So I'm very glad that the director of development services and public works are here because they know exactly what I'm talking about. Because I had multiple discussion with the deputy directors, managers over there. So what I recently found out is that development services was responsible for giving the permits before for the new homes. They don't do any grading inspection for 90% of the new homes. And that's been going on for decades. And because of that, the builders, they don't even submit grading plan for 90% of the new homes, even though it's required by San Antonio City Code. The only 10% that has grading plan and the ones that they inspect are the houses that are close to stormwater drainage. So 90% of the new homes built in the last decades, nobody knows great configuration of those homes. And people will experience defects, structural defects, because the grading defect will eventually cause structural defects. And the homeowners are left alone, filing lawsuit against these big builders. And
I know you're going to answer this question.
because I bought a home, my home is less than 2 years old, and my house is falling apart. And I live with 3 kids. And I spend more time talking with development services, quality works, builders, that actually doing my job.
Who's
So-
the developer? Woo.
Sorry.
Name the developer as well.
Yes.
Man,
Hi, everyone. My name is Amin Tomaz. I'm the Director of Development Services. Thank you for that question. I'm not aware of exactly the location you're talking about, but in general, we do not do inspections of the grading and for residential. Now, the foundation itself, you need to get, normally the builder will get a structural engineer to get us a letter stating the foundation meets the code. And that's what we base our inspection on. Then we do inspections on the framing and everything else in the house. So I can get with you and I'll follow up and figure out what needs to be done.
Do you follow him?
So, what I'm saying, 90% of the new homes, nobody knows what the grading configuration is. And I think you guys owe the duty to notify homeowners whether their house was built, house is safe to occupy. Because nobody knows grading configuration of 90% of the new homes built in the last more than a decade. And I got this information from very credible source. And I think if you review the permit application that was submitted on new homes in the Senate, you'll be surprised. Please take a look into the permit application for new home that was recently submitted in San Antonio. You'll be surprised what you'll find.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
I was just briefed on your specific issue earlier, and so the general, what you're describing is when development comes in, we review the mass grade for new development to ensure stormwater runoff, things like that. The individual home builder grading plans, we don't look at the detailed grading plans. But let's think up after and I can go over that.
But that's required by city code.
It's
And a permit phase.
at the planning phase, we look
Not
at
the
the
permit phase, permit phase.
The permanent phase is something more specific, but we'll talk later because I know there's a lot of needs.
I'm scared here.
I got it.
Say as much as
The permit days. Permit phase.
Permit phase.
The gentleman in the back.
I know you got it over.
Yeah, please, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up
Reverend
there was a story on Channel 4 about the data centers. Supposedly they are doing it under the radar. Already million a year. Were you aware of that?
There was a story in the San Antonio Express News, the News 4 story, I'm not sure if it's
Yeah,
talking about the
that's-
exact same thing. Okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you were aware. I thought they were going to kind of hold off on that before you started doing building those, but apparently they're already doing.
There's continuing activity in that regard. My understanding is there are a couple of environmental groups that have sent a letter based on their questioning of the permit phase as it relates to the emissions that are being extended and whether the permit was appropriate. So to that, That is what I know at this point. My understanding is they've submitted that notification to those entities to figure out, and those entities have some certain amount of time to respond. Otherwise, those environmental groups want to pursue lawsuit, right? Like more formal action. I think, as I mentioned earlier, we recognize the big picture, the importance of making sure that we are understanding in general who's coming into the neighborhood, the strain that they may or may not pose on our utilities, and then what ability we have to frankly make demands about where they go, what they look like, what they provide to the community. I'm thankful Councilman Galvan has it's called a CCR. Essentially it's a kind of a policy idea, right? That he has asked for more additional details on. You will review that later. As I mentioned, though, I think we were all a little bit surprised by the governor's kind of 180 on this topic. So I think that affords us an opportunity to revisit some of the things to see if we might want to implement those a little bit sooner. I think what you've seen in other communities, for example, requiring the use of recycled water, right? Requiring the use of a closed loop system versus evaporative. I think it's really important that we learn the lessons and apply the lessons that we've seen in other communities that are further along in their data center journey, and we're committed to doing that.
So who has the final say so on that?
Well, it depends, right? It depends. But I think that is what, as I was talking about, as we as a council think about how we want to review some of those things. One of the things, for example, they're looking at some potential changes in our zoning application that may apply there. So those are under discussion right now. I don't have anything to announce to you, but I think we are looking at certainly the example you just mentioned, the change in the state kind of environment and what that may mean for us at the local level. I see. With a hat, yes, please.
Oh, thank you. Do I get a mic or no? Wait. Oh. Thank you. So. Hello? Yeah. All right. Okay. I have a two-part question. First part is I want to try to let everybody know that we should have a voting alert. It's kind of like an Amber Alert or a server alert, but it's a voting alert. It could be county, state, or nationwide. Sort of like when the President Trump wants to make an alert and just talk to people, he just brings an alert. I think we have like that. It's not this for the county, for the nation, for the state. That way, everyone can know when to vote, when it's time to vote early, or when it's time to vote. And hopefully we can get that with my knee. Can you vote or not? I've been trying to fight budget cuts that you're trying to cut for the reading and all that. And I just want to let you know that I wish that you don't have that reading because I'm illiterate. And I would like to have some books to read or someone to help me to read. Or maybe I'll find someone to help me read it. But I'm going to read this out. I'm good at reading, right? And if I don't have this, is right here. Okay, it's good evening, Mayor and City Councilor. I'm here tonight to talk about how we can turn one of our biggest resource strains into a major financial asset for San Antonio and the future of our children. Right now, data centers are expanding rapidly across our cities. They're consuming massive amounts of our electricity from the CPS energy and millions of gallons of water from Charleston. What's your question? Well, this is the question. While they pay utility bills, we are allowing them to operate as passive resource consumers. We can change that. I'm proposing that the city establish a green energy and future funds policy that encourages and incentivize data centers. Don't talk with the plugs, please. Okay, incentivize the data centers to adopt 3 existing cutting-edge technology. 1, airborne wind energy system, high-altitude chart.
Yeah, sir, thank you for the recommendations, and I want to take those, but I think, as I just described, we're looking at all of those in particular,
Okay.
So no need to read it. We'll make sure we get a copy of that. And to be very clear, this mayor is not cutting books. I'm not cutting, I mean, to be very clear. So I am looking to make sure if there's additional funding, if with additional funding. It's important that we ask, as I mentioned, for help from other places that can provide these, cover down on these really important things. So let me go back to that, in fact, because when I raised the idea, when I, where's the papers that were right here? Is this it? Okay. That's okay. When I spoke earlier about wanting to look at where we've got some additional money, and I mentioned in particular the Ready to Work program, as mentioned, that's about $100 million, right? And so if you look at bringing some of that money back, if the voters so choose to pay for things that are in the general fund, we've got a couple of qualified programs that would come with, that these funds have to be applied to, right? So there's only a handful of things, but one of those things is literacy promotion. Literacy promotion. Take a guess about how much we spend on libraries in the general fund. $58 million. $58 million is how much we spend in the adopted budget FY 2026, 56 or 58 million toward the library system. And that's great. We should have that, especially if we have a literacy crisis in the country right now. And so when I say you could actually, if you wanted to, divert some of that Ready to Work money to a qualified program, you could then look at, say, well, how much of the library budget could you now fund from those Ready to Work funds? And then that frees up that general fund money, right, for streets, public safety, drainage. So we're looking at being creative with a few resources that we have, while at the same time protecting these things that I'm with you are public goods. Yeah, because it's yes, ma'am.
All right. Can you hear me? Okay. All right, so I had a couple things to throw in here, but first on what's the bond? Can't hear you.
Microphone.
It's the microphone. All right, so first on the bond. Alicia. Okay, first off, we brought up the bonds. Right now, the city is in bond debt, or has a bond debt burden of $21 billion. In cumulative principal and future interest averaging $14,000 per resident. So I don't know if you're aware, but you will be aware, Bradbridge Park, the trees, you know, there is a lawsuit now that the city has spent over $2 million so far, trying to go forward with this plan to remove, it's over 100 trees in Bradbridge Park, so we know Bradbridge is over 100 trees. Second, we had a bond shortfall stemming from the 2017 bond project. I gave your city staff the email from the call. You were $5 million short back in 21. 22 was only 2.5 million, right? So if you look at the letters I sent you from the nonprofit that is pushing their agenda in the park for phase 2, which they don't have any costs on, then we're going to be spending a lot of city money on stuff that isn't needed. If anyone's not familiar, phase 2 is the back part of the park where the donkey park is coming off the Hildebrand. They're going to take out all the picnic tables and parking spaces. They're going to put water through a ditch, which we don't need, and right now they're messing with a $12 million playground. Well, you know what's missing in that park is a bathroom that doesn't work. It's been closed since 23, I believe. You have aging sewer lines, water lines, but they want those put in for this playground. But if you walk around the whole park, the whole river wall, which is 1920, 1940, is failing, it's cracked.
So you're gonna spend millions on phase 2, which we don't need. There's nothing that says you need to take out the road, take out the people table for parking spaces, take out trees, put water in a ditch that they said if it's in a drought, it's gonna be dark. That's what it is now. So that money should be used to fix the river walls. Because every time it floods, it floods down the river, you know, the little water crossing. There's videos, I've been up on Facebook. There's a video on YouTube called Neglected Breckenridge Park. You can see the river wall. I traced it all the way back. So are we going to continue to waste bond money on stuff that is not needed when you have a restroom that's been closed for years? You have river walls that are failing, they're going to fail, and then they're wasting money on changing the river. Come on.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you for that. Let me see if anybody from the staff wants to address any of the things that I just mentioned.
John isn't working.
I'll connect.
Well, I think there's more people that want to answer that.
Good evening, y'all. John Paterick. Good evening, y'all. John Paterick. Happy to talk about Breckenridge. Obviously, some of the work that is planned is paused based on the outcome of the legal proceedings, right? And there is continued work on the playground. But I can talk to you about the bathrooms that you have concerns about. Make sure they're a part of those plans. I think they are part of the plans, right?
Public does need plans are going to be parking spaces. It's the whole park.
Sure.
If it's the most culturally significant park of the United States, then why are we destroying the landscape that makes it what it is? We all know going to have never replaced the witness tree identified by taking banks of Austin. You can never get back that 100-year-old tree. And they have plans to move that wall out, and they don't want to. Why? Why are we wasting money cutting trees out that we can never get back in a city who's, what is it, serious on attainment air quality, and not working with the indigenous? I mean, you want to continue fighting a lawsuit when you know you're wrong. You know, we want to save the trees because that is practical. That's what the people of the heart People have been going there. One family, the Serna family, had a picnic in the same spot for 70 Easters. That's what we love about Breckenridge. It is a place to gather and have a picnic, a barbecue, not have a water going through a ditch that we don't give a shit about, excuse my language. But, you know, come on, spend the money wisely, fix the restrooms, fix the trails like the 2017 bond project said. And if anyone wants documents, I got thousands.
We'll make sure that there's an update on the status of the bathrooms. And everything else, but in particular the bathrooms needs one.
Can you hear me? Every single time I turn on television, social media, I see one of two things from Animal Care Services. Either they're tooting their horn about their live release rate or how over capacity they are. Now, if that's true, then why aren't we picking up 70% of the dogs that are in the community? Because the last time I checked, they're unaltered and they're breeding. So I hosted a advocacy meeting about 3 weeks ago, and I asked people in the room, how many people feel safe in your neighborhoods? Nobody raised their hand. How many people feel unsafe? Everyone raised their hand. There's children walking in these neighborhoods, and if you're not picking up 70%, according to Animal Care Services, they're not even responding to calls that involve healthy strays. You cannot keep our community safe by leaving those animals roaming in the community. And you can't solve overpopulation by leaving them there either, because guess what they do? You're breeding dogs to be euthanized in our shelters tomorrow. So I'd love to hear what Mr. John Gary has to say about that.
500 dogs euthanized in the cemetery. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm John Gary. I'm the director at ACS, and so a couple things. City has invested a significant amount of money over the last couple of years. It's grown our field team. We actually now are responding to about 90% of our calls that we receive, which is the highest in our history. Well, our goal is to get to 100% of our critical calls, and we do believe that we're going to get close to be able to do that by 2027. It is a juggle, right? We do stay at capacity all the time. We do have to prioritize our calls, and just a regular stray dog is a low priority. We have people getting bit, people getting attacked. Those are obviously ones that we always address first. We have to do those in priority order. And a happy, healthy, free-roaming dog is lower on the priority list. So what we do is as people call in for the free-roaming dogs, we take that data and then we use heat mapping. And whenever we see a significant number in an area, we have a specific team that's assigned to our field team that will then go out to that area and try to address the stray dog issue. So if there's a significant amount. Now, if it's a critical call, so a aggressive dog is showing aggressive behavior, those are high priority calls. We're responding to 93% of those, and 75% of the time we respond on time. So which means we get there and the time that we stated we would get there. And so that's a big improvement. The last thing I want to mention is one of the programs that we launched last year is a pilot program, it's our Pet Care Connect program. And what that program is where our team actually goes into a community, goes into a neighborhood. Usually it's a neighborhood of high call volume, large free-roaming dog problem. And we go into that neighborhood and we actually go door to door, providing resources, addressing ordinance violations, getting spay and neuter, all of those things into that neighborhood and giving them whatever they need, whether it be from dog houses to dog food, police, collars. That program has been extremely successful. We launched it last year, we did 5 neighborhoods last year. This year we're doing 10, so we're doing almost 1 a month now. In those neighborhoods, we have been able to lower the number of calls received for that neighborhood by 40% whenever we are going to those neighborhoods. And so we've seen a significant decrease in that. And then the last thing I'll mention is, I just did a report a couple of months ago for our mayor and council and our city leadership that actually showed that the number of calls for service are actually going down, significantly going down.
Because you don't show
You're
up.
lying! You're not picking up the
The
dogs!
number of calls in each of the districts are going down. The number of dogs being killed.
How many dogs and cats have you guys all picked up? You're not picking them up!
We want animal control back. We want it back. We don't care about your live release rate.
Stray dogs
There's children walking in these neighborhoods.
You're killing
Our
us!
animal control
You're
back.
killing us!
Okay.
You're killing the elders! You're killing the young adults! You're killing
Anything
us!
else you want to finish here?
Now, I just wanted to mention that
You're full of it.
the data is showing that there is a decrease in
Ma'am, please.
So it's important, and I think our community knows that the data is showing that we are seeing a decrease in the dog community, and we are seeing the number of dogs being killed on the street significantly decrease. And so we'll continue to monitor that, we'll continue to run that data. We also,
ICE shooting people in the street? How about ICE kidnapping people off the street?
Like we did in
I'm not worried about dogs and people.
And once we're able to get that, hopefully that'll be done in the next few months, towards the end of the year. And so that will actually show us if we made any progress since our 2019 survey that said there was about 34,000 free-roaming dogs.
Let me say, I've engaged with the animal care team. This is a really hard one, and I know I've seen some of our neighbors here who unfortunately experienced loss to one of these.
Or actually they belong to somebody. Right? It's not folks that are just dogs that are just roaming. And so there's a lot of education that needs to go on here, but I'm thankful to you all that report these things. I know how hard the team works. This is one of those things that just it's just difficult and it's never going to be completely solved. But this is something that we obviously will prioritize in the upcoming budget, as we always do. Okay, I've got a question. One second, Molly.
The easiest question of all.
Okay.
The easiest question of all.
Thanks, Molly. Thank you, Molly. Okay. So I know we've got like 5 minutes left. Who is this whose first town hall is this?
This is
Okay, it's your first town hall. And now keep your hand up if you have a question.
This is your first town hall. And if you have a question, okay? One, and then gentleman in the black shirt. And then it's your first town hall. And then you, and then in the okay. So we'll do one of these last three, y'all. And if you've got additional question, I know the staff is here, and we'll take more of those. But I just want to respect everyone else's time. So please. District 1. A lot of institutions are encouraging public works with their construction projects, and there's been a lot of focus on how it impacts local small businesses. But there has been no focus. Hold on, y'all. There has been no focus on how these projects impact residential.
Not enough really.
About 2 years ago, the city finished a drainage project in our neighborhood. When they began the project, they did not obtain the right of entries, construction easement. They actually seized private property to complete this project. Instead of holding the contractor responsible for poor workmanship, the city did everything they could to put the burden onto the private property owner. When I requested the records, the city attorney's office wrote to the AG asking to withhold the records because they said if I would receive these records, a judge would find that I had sufficient cause to bring suit against the city. Unfortunately, though, the people that are impacted by this, like myself, a disabled veteran, other disabled veterans in my neighborhood and seniors were impacted by this. We are still waiting for the city to, one, finish the project. The ongoing property damage is affecting our foundations. We've had soil that has not been replaced. Concrete plumes are developing huge cracks. Driveways were not reinstalled to codes. And instead of assisting, the city just hopes, because they know nobody had the money as a private homeowner in a working class neighborhood to bring suit against the city. There should be a third party that can intercede in cases like this, that is not going to cover up the inefficiencies and, quite honestly, the unethical behavior that we have witnessed at Public Works. And it's not just our drainage project either. I see this happening all throughout the city. They rely on residents not understanding what their rights are, that residents are entitled to have a right of entry, construction easements, they're entitled to have compensation when the city seizes their property. And so the city just hopes that people will just give up, which the majority of them do. I would hope that moving forward, that you would perhaps consider looking into the idea of having a third party that can help mediate these types of dispute instead of, litigation being the only option. Because it honestly is so despicable what Public Works have done to our homes. We will never be able to afford to repair all the damages that they've done to our home.
I know we're trying to conclude, but Art Reinhardt, we haven't formally met. I know we've exchanged emails, so I know there's a few things with a couple other projects we're still looking into. Specifically on one of your projects, I've personally met with one of the property owners about one of the driveway issues, and we are developing a plan to address that. So, if there's other concerns, I'm happy to meet you out on site any day of the week, weekends, and we can go over that.
Gas line, there was one. Yes, the gentleman in the white. Awesome.
Oh, really?
It was the gentleman in the black shirt.
Population. My questions. I go to work at 2 in the morning, and they're always starting out with the
Oh, yeah.
Not on.
Oh, my God.
Hold the mic to Phil. The homeless population continues to grow. They're coming down the freeways, and I'd rather work. Hear you.
Hold on, folks, we're almost done here. Thank you.
Okay. The homeless population continues to grow on the freeways. I drive to work at 3 in the morning. They dart out sometimes. I'm afraid I'm going to hit them. Is the city going to do anything to alleviate this capsize that they do? They leave so much trash on the freeways.
We need affordable housing.
Well, this is,
We need
yes,
public
Mark
housing,
Ramona or
but-
anybody from, Homeless Services, no? Okay. No.
We're talking about specifically.
Yeah. If folks do report this night, somebody will go out there and review what's going on. So thank you for doing that. Yes, please. Thank you. I don't look like we're going to go back to the president of Vegan Health, and we have been having issues with squatters. This has become a huge issue with properties that are owned by LLCs that are out of state, and they're not taking any account of the safety of our neighborhood. We have talked to our safe officers. We've been working with our city council. We've been gone as far as our county commissioner, and they've all said we now need to go to you. They've all said sorry. We all need to go to you. Oh. So it is causing Councilman Core. That makes sense. Yeah. We have where it has we have hundreds of documentation, videos. We had. I mean, it is all there. Unfortunately, right now the eviction process, the LLC is in Michigan. That's nothing done about it. So we see a letter. Well, this is the first I'm hearing you need a letter from me. So thank you for flagging that. We can follow up. I'd like to understand who the letter would be addressed to and other things. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And then Rebecca, the last question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I am here just to reiterate what everybody knows that we have ICE deportations going on. And we have got to get them out of the city of San Antonio. It is majority black and brown. We all have a target on our backs, whether we think so or not. Even though, you know, somos privilegiados, somos ciudadanos, so you know what? We have a target on our back. Every day, people are being deported. Fourth in the country, San Antonio, in terms of deportation. Now, city police just got a contract. 66% of our city budget goes to, you know, safety. We are not safe in our streets. We aren't safe in our streets. I'm trying to get a meeting with Acting Chief Salame so that we can understand what the police is doing here in the city to protect us as people are driving down the streets. You know, they are stopping them in traffic on Southwest Military all the time and picking them up and deporting them within 15 minutes so that nobody can take action. It's really serious, Mayor. It is really serious. And listen, we, all of us que estamos aquí, somos raza, ¿verdad? Yep. We have got to understand this, and we have got to start defending our neighbors. This is our democracy, our safety. This is it. And if we don't change things in the November elections, we are going to have serious problems in this country. But we got to start here in our neighborhood in San Antonio because things are bad. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Let me provide just a couple of comments on that, and then we'll round up. some of you may have seen earlier, just a couple of weeks ago, we got a letter from DHS. We were hoping, as we've seen in other places in the community, that their plans for ICE detention facilities were not going to happen. So we're very hopeful that could be part of that group. Unfortunately, we got a letter that said the opposite. One, that letter provided us a timeline, which we didn't have kind of a definitive answer on previously. So they said that their timeline for that facility, 640,000 square feet on the east side, would be operational in the second quarter of fiscal year 27. So that's January to March, right? 1,000, 1,500 people is what they're anticipating. They indicated they have not identified the vendor that would operate the facility. So I responded very quickly and said, well, one, just reiterated, we do not want this in our community. We do not want this in our community. We do not want this in our community. Secondly, as you know, that warehouse was never meant to house 1,000 or 1,500 people, right? So there's been obviously need to be some modifications that need to be done related to that. That all requires an environmental review. Normally that is done prior to purchasing a facility. Obviously, this is now happening after the fact. The reason it's important that we have more transparency and clarity about what exactly is being done as part of that environmental review is because traditionally there is a public comment portion to that. So folks need to know what is being done so you can comment appropriately. So I asked for some additional details on how that is actually rolling out. And of course, reiterated our interest in wanting to make sure that we have some transparency in the vendor process. We, of course, also want to make sure that whatever work that's being done and the permits that are needed as part of that follows the process that we have in the city. That allows us to understand what's happening, when it's happening, ideally, of course, in accordance with the standards that we have. This allows us transparency into the process. I understand this is unsatisfying for many. I understand that. And as mentioned, though, this is the result of an election. So if you want something different, make sure you vote. My thanks for taking the time to join us here today. I'll stick around if you have additional questions. My email that the team helps monitor if you've got additional questions or feedback. mayorgoj@sanantonio.gov. You can send me feedback. I actually do look at those things. But thank you for taking the time to be here, and I hope you have a great night.
And then for the second day, the mayor, please put the left-hand side or in the middle. Secondly, for the budget town hall, just for clarity, the District 1, it will be August 25th.
Megan,
Tuesday, August.
we're gonna have all press stay here.
Thank you.